Lights, camera, action.
Take two.
No. Lights. Okay, here we go. Lights, camera, action. Today is a very special episode because we're gonna get the best take every time, and it's movie. Let me just.
Yeah, no. This is a one take wonder. One more time.
Let me start over.
All right, rolling. Action.
Lights. God damn it. Okay. Lights, camera, action. This is our very special movie podcast episode. I am so excited to be here, and like always, I got my hosts, Gabriel and Jonathan.
We love movies.
We all love movies. That's one thing we all have in common. And guys, what are some of your favorite movies, just off the top of your head?
Holy moly!
There are three movies. Never-ending Story.
Will ever only be.
So my favorite movies, and I'm happy to talk about any of these at length, and I intend to. Never-ending Story.
Oh yes,
a childhood favorite, something that I rewatched later. Like when the first time I watched it as an adult-ish, I was 21, and I hadn't seen it in a bunch of years, and I saw it, and it blew my mind again.
It's a classic.
Is that the one with the dog that flies?
Yes, Falcor.
Yes,
Falcor.
Yeah,
and I had a dog that looked just like him, and what a magical dog that was, because it just had no conflict with anyone.
Was there a wolf?
Yeah, Gamork is the villain. That thing scared the shit out of me. It's Never-ending Story is like, it's everything a kid needs to know. It's about how you need to be confident. It's about how you need to not get enveloped in sadness. Like, sadness is poison and death, and you can always find something to be sad about. Mm-hmm. It's about knowledge. It's about compassion. It's about evil being nothingness. Right.
It's a multi-layered message.
And there were mutant turtles.
Well, here's the thing. No. Were there? I don't think that's the same movie here. But I have seen a Never-ending Story. I remember bits and pieces of it, but gosh, what a magical story that was. And I remember there was a mountain, I think, right, that talked?
Yeah, big, the rock biter.
You remember now.
I think I have a flash of it.
Oh, what a...
So you guys got to watch this movie.
No, I remember it, but I remember it already being a classic. So when did that movie come out?
80s, like I want to say like 81, maybe 82, something like that.
Maybe so, yeah. Because I feel like my sister was more into it, and she was older. She's older than me, so I remember her. I've seen the movie a few times, but I feel like it was always her who wanted to watch it, and then I watched it with her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But wait a minute, you watched it.
I watched a lot.
Yes.
I watched that movie. No, I've seen that movie a few times, but I just don't remember.
You guys got to check this movie out again.
As an adult.
I need to see it again.
So it was already a classic. Like, everybody had already acknowledged it was like, this is like a great movie.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I didn't know that it was a classic.
No, I'm down with it. I'm down with it. That's a great choice.
Here's the thing.
That's my childhood.
It's hard to know, like, what movies today are going to be classics in the future.
Good call. Well, Frozen. Which we've talked about, but it's for me... never mind. We're not going to go back into that, but...
Just let it go.
Yeah, I'll let it go. Yeah, I should let it go. Ooh,
that's a good Latin one.
Yeah, I like that. That's Indian right there.
Let it go. Bollywood. Yeah, it should be like Indian. Oh, a good Indian... sorry.
So funny.
I have to say, one of my most profound movie experiences was in my bedroom. I used to work at Best Buy, and I would come home late at night, and I'd have movies with me, because we get this employee discount on the movies that were already on clearance, and so it was it was great. I just brought home so many movies, and I brought home Requiem for a Dream, and I had not known anything about this movie. I just liked the cover because it had an eyeball,
yes,
and it was like, ooh, this looks
absolutely did,
and it was like $3, so I was like, I've heard kids at school talk about this movie. I haven't heard anything bad. Everyone I've heard talk about it has said great things.
Yeah, it's a cult.
But I know nothing about it. Exactly. I popped that shit I had a DVD player back in the day, which, by the way, was a portable DVD player. It was like a laptop that only played DVDs. I don't know if you guys remember
yeah.
It was like a Walkman for DVDs.
Yeah, well, I remember it from music. I never really saw it from movies. Oh, yeah, my uncle did.
It was like, wow, it's a portable TV.
It's right.
It's everything you need.
It's it looked like a laptop. But all it did was just you insert a disc and it would play the DVD for you. It was for like road trips for kids to watch DVDs in the back of their car and whatnot. So I used to have one of these. And I remember in my room, I was in bed and I popped that in. I popped on the headphones and I turned off all the lights, and that's probably the way I recommend everyone who hasn't seen Requiem for a Dream to watch Requiem for a Dream. I watched it
In the dark alone?
In the dark alone with these headphones on, and I just had it right in my face because it was in that DVD player.
Yeah, headphones help.
And I've never felt my gut wrench watching a film in that way ever, And then by the time the credits were rolling, my mouth was wide open. I just couldn't believe what I had just seen. I'm so glad I had owned this DVD and not rented it. But yeah, it's like movies have a way of transcending.
Especially that one. That one hit. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, why did that movie speak to you?
I loved. I think I was talking a little bit about this earlier with you. We were saying that the dichotomy between horrific and beautiful being told through a movie, at least visually, or at least like through the just bare basics of sound and sight, having audio, for instance, that's beautiful. Like Requiem for a Dream has a beautiful soundtrack, and I think one of the best soundtracks aside from the movie it was made for. And then on top of that, the movie is about some of the most horrific elements of life, of addiction, and it's like the movie is more jarring than most horror films that come out today. But there's something about it that's gorgeous, and it's a mix between the way it's shot. It's shot beautifully. It's the cinematography mixed with this amazing, score. And
it's like
by Clint Mansell, I believe.
So,
my God, the music was pivotal in that movie. I remember even that was one of the first movies where I saw a movie and looked for the music. Somehow, like I wanted to hear the music on my own, in my own time, and because it was it's like you
I got the soundtrack for that for sure.
Yeah, it was a strange connection with that movie, and it felt like that particular movie also felt at its time because I was young. We were all young, and I just didn't have a rich culture with movies, but it felt like I'd never seen a movie like that either, where it was touching about current drug culture,
right? And that was great. It was about heroin and pills, and it was just like this was
starting love and sex.
It was addiction in really as many forms as they could tell it, because it's like these people are all going through addiction, and their spirals were all parallel with each other. They all, because it starts in the summer and the movie ends in the winter, and you just kind of you see them all descend separately into these horrible rabbit holes that are scary, because anyone who's known someone with addiction or has ever faced addiction themselves, it's a very scary and real thing, and it's all around us. And it's like this movie could have been shot a different way. It could have had a different soundtrack and would have just been any other dud that came out that year. But the fact that they were able to take something so mortifying and make it so beautiful, like it's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, but it's about one of the worst things.
Yeah. And it's one of those movies that you shouldn't, but you likely will not want to watch it again very soon after.
Oh,
it's no. I had a good, maybe even never again.
That movie for me,
you have to like share it with someone. You're like, you need to see this.
I only ever watch that movie if there's someone important enough to me, and just the moment is right, and it's like, hey, you guys want to watch a movie? Oh, you guys should check out this Requiem for a Dream. But that happens like once every 5 years. It's like,
and that's an interesting group. Like you don't come across the like social environment that warrants that movie very often
without being awkward. Like you have to know that person pretty well to show them Requiem for a Dream.
It's
not a good first impression movie.
That's very true. Very true.
But I just, for me personally, I love any film that walks that tightrope very well between horror and beauty. I try and emulate a lot of that in my own work, but I love being wow. There's a lot of great directors. Quentin Tarantino is a great one. His stuff, like I said, his stuff easily, if it was shot a different way or had a different, vision behind it, it could just be like any other action movie. But because his movies are so vision rich, they truly have a feel of their own. You almost could watch anything happen in his movies, and he could shoot it in a way that's just so compelling.
Those are so fun. Those directors like Woody Allen and those people who have a specific signature, which I find just so interesting. When you're because directors are part of these movie stories that we know and love, and some of these directors I like Quentin Tarantino. You watch him and you become part of their lives because it's like he's been around since we were kids,
right, and
he continually to this day. I think he's still coming out with a movie now,
This
year, next year. No,
very, very highly anticipated.
Oh my god!
So my question is like for let's say Quentin Tarantino. I mean, yes, he's great, and I love his movies too. What is it about his work that that makes him one of your favorites? Is that the case?
Right. No, definitely. It's for me personally. I don't know about you, but it's like when I go to a Quentin Tarantino movie, I go because I know what I'm going to get. Like I know what I'm going to get told through a different story, a different mission, a different objective, but it's the same experience. He's good at knowing what makes his movies great,
and we're lucky that he enjoys making them.
Exactly,
because a lot of artists might be like, "Oh, I don't want to be making this." They try to go branch out and do other little things, but it's like, no, but this is his style. He's developed this, and there's still quality. You know,
no, very much so. I don't feel like he's reached a point where it's like, oh, he's lost his steam. Not at all. A lot of my favorite directors, I can say the same. I feel like a lot of them are I watch their movies because I know what I'm going to get. I know, it's like I feel like those kind of directors know what sells. They know why people love their movies, and they just hone. Like, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but with our videos, I feel like the more we do the videos and the more we continually see the feedback and see what fans like and don't, we're definitely understanding what makes us unique. The way the ways the videos visually look, and then the way the videos are paced, the way that they're acted, the way that they just so many elements to the videos that we're learning.
Even if it's subconscious.
So you like how Quentin Tarantino kind of embraces and continues to hone in on his voice,
and that inspires me to do the same. Like I look at him and many directors, like him, John Waters and Tim Burton, and like you said, Woody Allen, just so Martin Scorsese. I look at and I feel like they also do the same. Like I look at them and I say, I want to be a director similar. Like I want to be someone who can understand what makes us unique and then hone in on that, so that people, like, my dream one day is to be a director that someone says like, oh, that feels like a Brandon Rogers type production, like, or something that, like, I want to be a brand of what we're doing.
And that happens probably accidentally, because it's like, let's say Woody, all of these directors, I'm sure, saw art and tried to replicate that art. I mean, I feel like artists always try to replicate what they admire and what they love. But it always comes out their own anyways, because you can't get to them, and you doing it in your own attempt somehow makes a different point in the mountain. It's like a different pillar, and it's just like, I don't know.
Right. No, I totally agree. It's a very nice privilege to be a kind of director who has accidentally found your own, look, feel, aesthetic.
I feel like I think the overall point that I was trying to say was that I feel like that's how most everyone gets there. Was that it's like
it's a happenstance thing.
It's like that. I guess when I made a movie, that's how it came out.
If you look at
first, you have to express yourself, and then you kind of learn. Wow,
how to
chose to express myself in this way, and this felt right, and I don't know why it felt right. And eventually, you come to understand why it felt right from the beginning.
I feel like the American Office did that. I feel like they were trying to be the British Office, and then they realized what made themselves very special and unique, and then it became its own beast. It became its own thing. I feel like movies have a way of doing
perfect example.
Like a lot of my favorite directors, I look at their careers and I just love seeing how they, from project to project, sank deeper and deeper into the grooves of their ways and what made them so special. John Waters, who I talk about all the time, one of my favorite directors.
You mention him so often, and I have to admit, I haven't seen a lot of his films.
Well,
I've seen clips.
If you see
show me
his
clips,
stuff,
but
if you see or anyone sees his stuff, you'll be like, oh, that's where he gets it.
Oh no,
from.
for sure. I saw that immediately, but I haven't seen enough of it. I really should.
His stuff is some of his movies are so geniusly written, and just the production value, because I like his really early stuff, and the production value is so low, but the scripts are so wacky and wild, and like the scripts really are for a really big budget production, and it's crazy how he pulls them off. And like he would just drive around to his friends' houses and pick them up and drop them, and like bring
no excuses.
No excuses. They would just do the work, and they do it sober, and then they all get high after. And I like, but some of the movies are just written at the very, like they feel like they've been written as they were shooting it. Like it just ends with a totally almost different character, And I find his movies to be almost like a different little rabbit hole to fall down, a little drug trip, and it's a big, that vibe is what I try and get. But he also reused the same actors movie after movie. And that's another thing that, like Tarantino that
can be really beneficial.
Yeah,
it creates like a family and a familiarity.
And as a fan,
part of your signature. It's like, would Tim Burton movies be the same without Johnny Depp?
Right, exactly. And there are people who harp on that, but I enjoy when a director can really diversify their own actors.
Right. People do. They make it like a romance. Like look at the they always like
Right.
try to like a bad thing. But I'm like, no, these are just two artists that came together and are like creating something together.
I agree, and I think it's very healthy, and also it's nice. It's nice for the creator also because you're working with someone familiar. Like when we work with people we know, there's no pressure. Imagine if we worked with a different actor every time we shot a video. It's like it's a little bit more formal the first time around. The second time you work with any actor, it always feels a lot more like 100% more comfortable. And so just night
and day.
Yeah. And
different magic, different lightning captured in different bottles.
Exactly. There's a more organic chemistry.
Different storms, different waves upon the mountain tops.
Think about it.
What's this year? I really feel like we're entering another golden age in cinema. Not just this year, but like the last couple years.
Interesting. I literally just had the opposite thought like a night or two.
Really?
Yeah. Only because of Netflix.
Well, if you're judging, Netflix is a whole different beast. I wouldn't.
They are beast.
Well, yeah.
They are the mountain.
They are the beast. Yeah, but I mean just in terms of general, like what you go to the movies to see, like in terms of just traditional sense of like movies that are out, now.
Well, maybe movies are coming back.
I think
right, but it's a bad state for feature films. It's like feature films are getting less attention. They're getting less
of
the top talent.
Film?
A movie versus a TV show.
Yeah. But I think in this context, specifically, what we mean.
I thought there was like a difference between like feature film and then a film.
Right. Sorry, no. Like feature length, like a regular movie versus it's like a 45-minute movie, a featurette, or a 20-minute short.
Yeah, back when I was in Livermore, and there were other filmmakers who would always say, "Yeah, I'm working on a feature right now," and it's like that meant, "Oh, I'm working on something that's longer than an hour."
Yeah, what is that? But why say feature? Because to me, that means like, you're being like there's an attachment to it, there's an importance to it.
Feature presentation, I think, with the movies that would right, they would just.
Well, I think the distinction, especially around like the time of film school, is because the budget for a feature is going to be much larger than a budget for a short. Right. It's a bigger beast to handle all in all.
So it is kind of in a way.
Yeah, if you're working on a feature or you're shooting a feature, it's like you're shooting a feature. Is that total like shoelace, or did you get real money? Like that actually does matter.
Because you may or may not have a future for this feature. Feature.
Yeah,
it's a suture for your feature.
Just words.
Your feature's future.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I mean.
I think I am my biggest fan. I think that there are some really good movies coming. I remember back in like when I was in high school, I felt like there wasn't.
You're right. We were talking about movies. I guess.
And we were just saying that like as tech industry or as tech companies like control the platforms and everyone focuses on binging content and series, it takes a lot of talent and focus away from features. So it's tough. Not to say that things that are coming out right now are bad, just that it's like, whoa, the focus is away from features right now.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I agree. But I think the stuff that is coming, like I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff on Netflix I think is pretty good. And some of the stuff on Hulu I think is really on FX. I mean, I kind of drink from all the different ponds, but just overall, yes, there's a lot of crap coming out, but there's also a lot of more platforms now. There's a lot more room for crap to sprout from. A lot of, just in the last 10 years, think about how many cable shows have been axed and turned into...
That's the argument. So there was this brief moment where technology had finally caught up to the art, right? So then you had platforms that were like HBO was making these, Game of Thrones type things that whether you like it or not, suddenly... I think maybe Mad Men or something. When these shows started, suddenly now there was a bunch of shows that were just top quality. And then Netflix got a little bite of it, and then they started doing House of Cards. And then that started making them a serious platform. And then they started doing a few little things. And everybody had like one or two projects that were just so good that everybody was like, my God, this is better than the movies. The first, that was golden. Then, very recently, I would say like within the last 6 months, 8 months, maybe this year, oversaturation. Where it's like we did so good on these original programming, we're going to make a shitload so that everybody just jumps from their other boat to this one because we have the most of them. And it doesn't work necessarily because like we're not producing, I don't think, quality.
They're trying to rekindle that spark.
Right. And so they're turning it into like TV in a way where it's like, oh, now I have like flippable things I don't want to watch. Whereas before it was like all of it was like I'd watch. You know, I don't know.
Right. It's like
dangerous.
It's like if Starz and HBO and Netflix and Amazon Hulu are all competing on a relatively level playing field and they all have their really good shows and they got some other stuff that's not so good and you're like, oh man, do I need to buy all of it so that I get all the good shows? Maybe, but at least they're competing because otherwise what happens is essentially a monopoly. You get down to just a couple producers with the very good shows that attracted you and everyone else goes out of business or loses money and can't make the good shows and then they fill it with all the fluff as soon as they can.
Yeah, I definitely I agree. I think that there's a lot of fluff out there, but I think that there's a lot of good stuff.
But there's good
too.
stuff, and we want to talk about that.
I think. Well, no. I mean, there is a lot of fluff because I agree with Gabriel. I scroll the fuck through my Netflix all the way down. No. I hate this. I hate that. Bullshit.
That's how Gabriel scrolls.
And not to get like old timey, but there is a difference between the way we scroll through movies and the way we used to walk through a Blockbuster.
Yeah,
the total joy has been sunken out of me, man. Because looking at a picture, all these flashes, and then like on Netflix, especially if you like leave it on the thumbnail, it'll like start playing a clip. So I can't even fucking think to think about. So whereas back before we would look at one movie and it would have one photo of it and but like a whole wall of it, right? Because if there were new releases, it was like the whole.
A million reasons why that was better. A million reasons. It was the feeling of walking up to it and saying, "They still have one left. Oh my gosh, they still have one left. I'm gonna get it." And then and you get all that candy.
And the candy, I was just going to say.
Candy. They had a candy aisle that was. It was like picture the best movie theater candy section and then multiply it by 2 because they had a usually large. It was Blockbuster was basically a candy store that also sold videos.
Correct.
That was basically what it was. And video games. Once the video game thing would hit, oh my God. But movies going on a Friday fucking night with a Blockbuster and there's a line and you go in there, people are returning movies and buying and getting more movies and you walk in.
And they're like, we're out and we're like, can you check the return bins?
Yeah, can you check the return bins? See, they would always check the return bins.
And you often got lucky.
And they were because they would just fly in and out of this place. And it was just everyone went to Blockbuster. And now
it's the sound of returning one in your car when you put it in.
Yeah.
Got it. It's in.
Good. It's in. If I heard it slide, I heard it drop.
Do you know that I thought it was like I thought it was some magical process, but when you look over
it's just a hole.
It's just a hole with a basket.
I thought so too. I thought it went through a chute and went on a conveyor belt and it was scanned.
Auto rewind.
Exactly.
Enhance.
And nope, my shits go through more of a magical process hitting the water than those videos did hitting that box. I swear. But no, that was it really. And guys, if you're too young to remember Blockbuster,
I hope not.
No. I think realistically, a lot of these people probably. Honestly, I barely remember Blockbuster.
Or maybe not. Maybe they were like 7.
No,
like maybe their last memory of Blockbuster
everyone
was
listening
like,
to this.
It's the same age.
Well, let's just assume that a majority of these people probably haven't been to a Blockbuster. Like
You're
me,
right. You're right. Totally.
It was, and to those of you who have been to a Blockbuster, then relive this with me when I say there was a magic to walking in there and to going down the aisles and not even the new release section, but going down like the L section and just looking all the L movies from all the different time periods that there was an L movie and remembering, oh, I did want to see that one time. Grab it. I wanted to see that. I saw this and it was great. But it's been like 5 years. Grab that one, and you just walk out with just 2 arms
things
full
you
of
never heard of.
Things you never heard of. Things that just looked interesting.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, look at this actor. I like this actor. Oh, this director.
You read the
this director made this movie.
Exactly, and you go out just with the description of the movie. That's all you're basing it off of sometimes. And you walk out and you take that home. You pop that like it was now. Yes, there's a trade-off. We traded that experience for convenience. And that's been the American way since day number 1. Everything's been convenience first. If we have the ability to watch any movie we want, then we'll trade whatever it takes to have that over having to get up and go to a store. Because now, yes, not only is the entire library of Blockbuster at our fingertips, but like for everything. Like now we can watch anything from any time period whenever we want. It's everything's at our fingertips now, but that experience is no longer there. And I do miss that. I enjoy that I can watch whatever. I enjoy that if I'm at a party, I could be like, "Oh, have you never seen that movie? Oh, let's pull it up. I'll pay for the iTunes or whatever. I'll pay. We can watch anything, anytime, and it's great. I love that.
Yeah.
But the cost is that experience.
That experience. And
but we'll never know what the drive-in felt like because that was never a thing.
Do you know that it immediately made me think?
Dropped.
Yes.
Like the thing about all the stuff we never got to experience when we were growing up. Do
you know that what's funny? We were talking about like great movies or things. When things have changed and movies like music, I feel sometimes outlives film in a weird way. Like paintings maybe outlive us all, I guess. But I don't know,
film's only been around 100 years.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that when I look at things from the 1960s, 50s, there is a masterpiece, without a doubt. But like how the evolution of it all, and especially the way we film it and tell the story, you can see the date of it. It's like, oh man, this is very old.
You can look at a movie that you've never seen before and immediately be able to tell at least a decade. Like I could look at any movie and be like, oh, this is clearly from, and have a rough idea of when, like this is a 70s film, this is an 80s movie, this is clearly a 90s. I think there's a lot of elements that date a film, but yes, the way that you mean, like the way that it's shot and the story's told. There's obviously the physical things like the hair and the whatnot, but that could be a period piece. You don't know. It's the way it's shot. Like if I'm seeing like a Renaissance movie, a pirate movie, technically that could be any era that shot that. But why is it that I can tell this is an 80s pirates movie? This is a 70s pirates movie. Why can I tell that? Once we reach the color era,
everyone looks like they're trying to relate to people of their time period.
Right. And it's interesting how, like, what are they going to think of the movies now? Or have we finally nailed authenticity?
No. This is just of our time.
This is just of our time, exactly.
All this is very interesting stuff on the state of movies right now and kind of how they're getting financed and watched and then therefore financed again. But as far as like not just what's coming out right now, but all-time favorites, what are the movies that speak to you guys the most? And I think that like Requiem for a Dream, for me, that's hitting on a very interesting aspect of you, where it's that you like horror and beauty combined, and not just like not just a regular horror, like a Thrasher style, but like horrific things beautifully told. And it seems like the beauty of it authenticates the truth of what they're saying about the horror aspect for you, or the horrifying elements. And so what other movies are your favorite, and for what reason?
Well, I think that dichotomy can be reversed. I think that very beautiful settings can have very horrible things happen in them. I think that I usually find that more in comedy.
That's it. So that strikes me as true because you love peeling back beautiful facades. And a movie like Requiem for a Dream is like, it's a beautiful telling of a utterly horrifying situation.
Yeah, you can say like Magic Funhouse, for instance. The whole purpose of that show is about the facade of children's television, and it's just the idea of children's TV, and then obviously the content of the show. It's very opposite. I think that way is more for comedy, and usually horrific things told beautifully is usually more seen in dramas and horror.
And we've discussed this multiple times, or maybe like I have, that there's a beauty in horror.
Yes.
In sadness and in pain and in suffering and in chaos and in destruction.
Why is it that the Saw...
going to throw in distraction because...
You could argue that the Saw movies are quite beautiful. Like even some of the traps were beautiful looking.
Completely are.
And that's definitely...
Well, you do like those type too, though. You do like even the... You don't just like wow, because Requiem for a Dream is not that type of horror. It's a very emotional type of horror, the suffering. But Brandon also seems to.
I'm fascinated with
the blood ones too.
I like the blood stuff when it's done practically. I really love movies that do, like Dawn of the Dead is my favorite.
Yeah, what's your favorite horror?
Yeah, favorite horror. Well, Dawn of the Dead 2004, I want to say was the most. No, actually, that was Zack Snyder, who went on to do 300, and he went on to do a bunch of other. Zack Snyder.
But which? Oh man, I wish I could remember.
Anyway, Dawn of the Dead is, I think, not just the best zombie movie, but I think it's one of the. When I went to see it, I was about 15 or 16 years old when that came out. I remember going to the movies, and I remember we were late, and we came in right when the movie started. So it was like intense, like no previews, nothing. We just ran in that theater and sat down. The movie started, and I remember. it was right at that age when I was deciding I wanted to go into video making or film or something. Right around that, I was having this epiphany of like, I want to do filmmaking as a living. And I see this movie, and everything's done practically. They do like almost no CGI in this film. All the blood, all the guts, it's all done in front of the camera. So there's a lot of prosthetics and a lot of stuff. And I'm just, it was so well done. And it's also just the pacing of the film. I just really, you don't see a lot in horror films. And I just remember as a teenager being so moved by this and hearing the audience, because it was opening night, hearing the audience like, you know, freak out when something would happen. And I'm marveling at how beautiful it looked. Like how, when I say beautiful, I mean like how well executed it was. Like how like, yeah, that was a great shot. Like I don't even want to know what it took to pull that off, but it looked amazing. And the audience loves it and they ate it up. And so like,
so were you looking at it from a filmmaker's point of view?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily enjoy gore when I'm trying to enjoy a movie. I don't care, but I enjoy it when it's as a filmmaker when it's done well. When I see it done well,
yeah, you do take those type of. My goodness, you do. I mean, for the record, it's like before I'd ever seen it, I feel like I've seen people do. I felt like I did, and they just use like ketchup or. I've seen people try to make blood, but when you make blood, you take it very seriously until you found like a product that you liked. But like when we've been on the fly before, where you had to make things on the go, and that is an important detail to you. You don't, for some reason, that's like one where you're like, I don't like that looking fake. Yeah, and you really nitpick about it. I'm like, it's interesting.
Blood
it's
blood is the one thing that and it's also, you know, I went through many years of many mixtures trying to, because it's not just okay. Sure, you can get it to look like blood, but does it wash off? Can people ingest it? There's all these things. Luckily, we found the Ben Nye product, and no, they're not sponsoring this. It's just a great fucking product if you ever need to use fake blood, and it's relatively cheap for how realistic it is, and it doesn't stain, and you can eat it, and they sell it in like gallons and jugs, and it's relatively affordable for fake blood, and I use it in all my videos. I don't even make my blood anymore. This stuff washes out of everything, and I swear by it. But yeah, before. Like now I still have to manufacture shit and urine and semen. Those things we still have to make.
Those things are fun to make.
They don't sell those in jugs. It's just a jug of urine and a jug of shit.
Wow, they should. I was about to say,
I'm sure they do.
The thing is, it's so easy to make those things. Blood is a very specific texture, and the way it drips down, it's very specific. It's very, very specific.
Urine is my shit.
Yeah, right.
It's not reliable consistency, Gabe.
All right,
but no, yeah, everyone has the same consistency of blood. Shit, I don't know. We can get away with that. But yeah, I admire practical effects done well. I think that if you take the extra time to do a practical effect the right way, it looks so much better than a very expensive CGI shot. You know, it's like we do a lot of our stuff practically, and it actually amazes me when I see sometimes some of our practical effects come out so much smoother or just more polished after we do them. I'm like, oh my God, that really sold. That really looked like XYZ, and it was practical. And so you never know how good it can look if you don't try it practically. But so yeah, Dawn of the Dead, 2004, one of the most.
I know I've seen it, but I can't remember which version. There's so many versions.
It's the one where they're in the mall. They're in a shopping mall, and they have to barricade the buses with sheet metal, and they like drive out, and they have to like.
Dude, at one point I get to a roof, and there's another guy on another building, and he's holding a sign,
and he has another sign.
Oh no, he's been there for a while.
Yeah, like over months, they like get to know the guy,
that was fun.
And then they have to like give him food because he runs out of food.
That was probably why I remember it. That was the one detail of that movie that I liked. Probably
it was scary. That was like a scary moment because it makes you think. Well, what would you do in that situation if there's like some other guy on another building like who's like starving?
I would totally do the same. I'd be like,
help
what's up, man?
Yeah, right.
Love you.
right.
We're gonna do it, bro.
Yeah, like trying to find a way to throw it over or something. But no, yeah. So that was. What about you? What's some movie that really scared you out of your pantalones, Jonathan?
Oh, well, scary movie.
Pantalonos.
I mean,
pants.
I'll talk about Velociraptors all day.
Pantalones. Sorry, what?
Velociraptors.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park scared me as a child.
Ooh. Oh, and I know which scene I can guess.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, all of it. But I thought I wrote a short film about Velociraptors coming to get me. my childhood nightmares. I always thought as a kid that Velociraptors were real. Huh. And that if they weren't in my room at that very moment, then they were coming to get me from wherever they started off, probably in Africa or something, but that I imagined that every time I went to sleep, they arose and started running towards me at their breakneck speed. Wow. And that when I woke up, they would freeze and they'd be back to dinosaur bones. And then when I went back to sleep, they'd run after me, and that they would get me. And that the trick was that I imagine that they'll probably get me somewhere in like my 20s, and I need to just find out where they are so that I can move to the opposite side of the world at that time, and then I can keep doing that. But first I need to identify them, because the danger, of course, is that one night they're 60 miles away, but in the course of that night they get you right then at the end.
Oh my God!
So that scared the shit out of me.
What
now, Jonathan, what sold you on this theory? What reason did you have to believe that Velociraptor?
And how did you really?
Question.
How much did you believe this?
I mean,
he has thought about it a lot, because that's a brilliant idea to move and wait until that interim ends, and you have to find a new place.
You know what it was? I think as a child, like every time I had a fear that I wanted to discuss with my parents or something, they were just like, they were very dismissive, and they were busy, but they're just like, no, like that. Trust me, that's not real. End of story. And it's just like, that's not the end of the story. Like here's how you want to say that couldn't happen. No, here's how it could happen. And so my mind would just wander in like justifying these fears.
But did you believe it, or did you like the idea of it? Because everybody, I feel like everybody's fantasizes. Like I love.
So I wouldn't say that I fully believed like should have been in a mental institution, because no, this is really happening. But it was more than just like, oh, that's interesting. I was very afraid of that being true. Very afraid that was the real truth. And so like my mind suspended my own belief in reality to accept this. Like
so there was a point where you were walking around like thinking like fucking velociraptors were on your back.
Yeah, like this wouldn't surprise me if that was really true. Like, really like going way too far and accepting that might be a reality.
But you're the only human that they were after to kill.
Yep.
So in a shopping mall, you'd feel terrified they could come at any moment.
No, I'm awake. Everything's going to be fine as long as I'm awake.
Oh, they're only...
But if I go to sleep, that's when...
See, all these rules that you had in this... But you know what? I can't fault you. I can't fault you for that. I feel like we all had childhood delusions. I certainly was convinced a ghost... I would see a ghost.
Specific one. Oh, ghost what?
Well, I was convinced. I'd see in all the movies. I watched a lot of ghost movies, and we watched a lot of daytime TV. And Sylvia Brown, oh my God, that bitch was God rest her soul.
I wanted her to be so right.
But I remember. I know this isn't movies, but I just have to say Sylvia fucking Brown. I remember some middle-aged moms, like some fat mom in the audience. Well, here's the thing. I saw a dark figure in my room, and that because I was a kid, I thought ghosts weren't real. I really thought ghosts weren't real, and then I watched this Sylvia Brown thing, and the mom's like, oh yeah, I saw this shadowy figure.
That's your brother.
Fucking Midwest housewife. Exactly. And now I'm terrified. Now I'm like positive that when I go to sleep, I'm going to see a ghost, because this woman on TV did.
You guys were just traumatized by movies when you were young, and then like, here you are with the dinosaur. You saw Jurassic Park, saw raptors, and then...
Yeah, but unlike dinosaurs, ghosts actually exist.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, dinosaurs don't exist.
Yeah. Dinosaurs
never did.
Yeah.
I guess right now. Well, maybe there's a dinosaur alive. Alligators could be still
with the Loch Ness.
Alligators been around for a long time.
And there is no proof. I guess
Sharkies.
There's no physical proof of either of our fears. Assuming that
and you were only introduced to it through movies, so we have just made an argument that movies should not be watched by children.
Into our fears.
Those R-rated things.
I don't.
Because I don't. What was your first? I mean, have we talked about that? Because I mean, movies weren't just something that we were allowed to go into immediately. Like, and the thing was, I didn't even want to watch the adult stuff.
Do you remember watching your first sex scene in a movie?
I would cover my eyes. I really was uncomfortable with that.
Do you remember the first one you looked at?
I do not remember the first one I looked at. Do you know what I do? Actually, you know what? I probably, if there was anything in Goodfellas, because that was my first R-rated movie.
Wow.
My dad had it, and I snuck it in. They would never let me watch that fucking movie. No way would they. But I was like, this one looks dope. Yeah. This one looks like an amazing movie. I don't know why. And then I watched it, and it just blew my mind. I never want to stop watching. Scene? Great. I don't know if there is one.
Oh my God! I still close my eyes watching that movie.
Actually, you know what? I probably did. I was a kid.
Oh my word!
What was your sex scene?
My first sex scene was actually a. Oh God! I hope my parents don't listen to this, but it was a porn that I found in their
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wait a minute.
You're one of those lucky kids.
No.
I was bored one
Think
day.
about it.
I was bored one day, and I went through my parents' stuff in their room, and I found this VHS, and I popped it in.
I'm a delinquent.
And it was a full on it was a full on porn, and I was like a kid, and this was, and I still wasn't allowed to watch Scary Movie at this point. So
Oh my god!
so I was seeing things, and I remember the very first. Oh God! I hope to God my
remember
parents
still.
don't fucking
And
listen
this is
to
when
this.
you knew you were gay.
I'll make sure they do.
Here's the thing. The very first shot I remember, the very first image I saw, if I'm remembering correctly, was a blowjob, but it was like an up close one, and you couldn't see where the penis was connected to. So I thought it was some guy's like wrist. I thought his fist was in her mouth.
You couldn't process another man's.
Well, I didn't understand like what I was staring at exactly. I thought it was because it was veiny and
Sounds like an artful film.
I must have been. I must have been like 9 or 10.
Artful.
And I'm thinking, why is his arm in her mouth? And it pulls away. We can't shot. Oh, we cut to a wide. And then I see that's not his arm. And I go, oh my God.
Oh my god is right. But then here's the thing.
That was my first cinematic romance.
You didn't really know.
scene.
You kind of knew. It sounded like you kind of knew what you were going to see. There was something inappropriate you shouldn't be watching.
Yeah, you
put it
started
in.
off with stealing.
Right.
Stealing.
All right, but then you put it in, you see it.
Sneaking and then stealing.
Now that you know what it is, this is the first, you've acknowledged this, whatever.
Right.
What feeling do you have after?
I felt dirty. I felt like, oh God, because then I felt exactly what you said.
Right. You're like, I'm in unfamiliar trouble right now.
I'm in unfamiliar territory, but I knew I was fascinated by it. I was like,
Familiar trouble
I said,
is my favorite new thing of the week.
This is honestly the thought that went through my head. I said, I feel dirty. I snuck into my parents' room. I went through their stuff. I feel, but then I would like look at the VHS as I'm putting it back, and just not necessarily about the VHS, but just about porn in general. I had this thought. More of this later.
I'll be back.
'Cause I knew I was too young to enjoy it at the time, but I'm like, so that's what I get to look forward to. Yeah. More of this to be continued.
When I'm all grown up, I'm going to buy infinity these things.
Think about this though. Would it have been different if you had been older and had not? So let's say this hadn't been your first sexual thing. Maybe it was like 17. And then you go into there and you find the exact same thing.
I probably wouldn't have been able to contain my semen.
I would have. You started early. You're already.
I feel like I would have shut down because I would be like, my parents aren't sexual. No way, man.
If I had never
they
seen,
can't be there.
If I had
they watch porn, impossible.
They're saints. No, if I had gone my whole life without seeing porn ever, and then at 17 I saw it. I feel like it would be the day that I wear khaki pants and I'd walk in and my mom would be like, "Sweetie, did you piss yourself?" Oh, Mom, this is not piss. I just saw porn for the first time and I came everything I owned. No, I feel like I would just not be able to process it. You know, there was my girlfriend in high school before she saw my penis thought that the balls were on top of the wiener.
Whoa.
She said, "Why are your balls
Sex
down
education failed her.
Why are your balls down there?"
I thought those were the wrong way.
That actually might have taken over my favorite line. Are you kidding me?
Balls down there.
Why balls down there? I'll say, oh, wow.
Oh my God. So yeah. Anyways, so what's the movie? Well, what's your red
At that point, is it appropriate? Then so whatever's going down, I shouldn't.
It's like clearly if I'm deformed, like, why would you say why are your balls down there?
Yeah, she was also insensitive to a potential issue.
Oh my God. I haven't really thought about this memory in a while.
Yeah, you blocked it out.
And then she threw in homo.
Yeah.
To be a jerk.
Oh, God. God. Anyway, I hope she doesn't listen to this. None of the people from my past.
Listens to this. Other than people like children who our 6-year-old fan base.
My first movie where I saw any kind of sexual anything was Top Gun, also one of my all-time favorites. So my favorite movies are Neverending Story, Hook, Apollo 13, and Top Gun. And that's the most shameful one because it's... I just love that movie. I just love it. I love every little bit of it. It's so ridiculous.
All your favorite movies are nouns.
You know, immediately,
fuck.
You said Top Gun, and for some reason I had that different movie with Tom Cruise going out with, like, I think it was Risky Business, where he's like, in a box. I'm like, Top Gun.
No, this one's more gay.
Yeah.
Than that scene.
All right, cool.
He and Iceman have a very close relationship, and it's super hot, you know.
Well,
but it's also just
can't
like,
blame you.
It's also just like, it's like intimate friendships. I didn't like it. I had no idea that it was homoerotic, but I guess it is. Although I do think people overplay that. It's just like an in-depth buddy movie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, in that movie, he eventually has sex with Kelly McGillis, and I wasn't allowed to watch that, and so I did see that, but then my parents like made me cover my eyes. You know,
So
when
that
we
scene
were
must
watching
have felt quite coveted to you.
but then later I would watch that movie on repeat. Like I would watch it like 4 or 5 times a day for a summer, and I would fast forward through that scene because I wasn't supposed to, but eventually. One day,
See, this
I
is
accidentally slowly wandered towards the receiver. I would do it like this. I would get further away from the TV when the scene was coming up, so that I would have the excuse that I was far away and I was coming to fast forward it, and I would watch more and more. But no one's around.
Wow,
and no one gives
really,
a shit.
You really
and
thought about that.
Yeah, but I had to have my excuse ready, so I would like slowly, and I'd go up and I'd get like as slow as I could, and if I would retreat a couple feet if I thought it was safe to do so I could. Restart the clock on it, but eventually I did see that scene.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Anyway, that was my first one. It was tasteful, cute, respectful.
What a great, you know what?
Yeah.
And Top Gun. Top
And they're
Gun
both
is a good,
gay.
I need to, wow. Well. What a great,
That's why it was so nice.
Do you guys think it's wrong to enjoy a chick flick movie, or is there even a chick flick movie that's? I mean, like chick flick movies that's a genre in itself, right? I mean, I know it's technically romantic comedy most of the time.
I love those movies.
There are some chick flick movies that I actually laughed pretty hard at.
Okay, yeah. Which one? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You look like you want to confess something.
I actually, you know what? I had a one. Well, would you consider I Heart Huckabees a chick flick? It was marketed as one.
That is amazing that you mentioned that movie. That would be in my top 10 movies.
But like,
in fact, there was a time period where I thought that was my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you admit that they kind of marketed it to look like a chick flick movie? Like when I saw the trailers, I was convinced it was a romantic comedy.
Intensely marketed like that. I remember when I first saw it, I think it gave me the same time feeling of love. Or what was that? What's that Christmas movie about love?
Love Actually?
Love Actually.
Oh.
And there was I feel like Love Actually was the first time in our generation where there was like a movie of like a bunch of cameos from a bunch of people, little different storylines, and then you saw the cover of everyone there. And it was marketed like that. Like, look at all the storylines of amazing people that you all know and familiar with.
Right.
This movie had the same thing in it, but it felt like...
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wish it was
marketed to women.
I'm sorry. Well, so what do you love about that movie? I mean, that's a great movie. I Heart Huckabees is fantastic.
I like that it's a weird kind of a comedy. It's a comedy that I could still laugh at and enjoy the content, but it's also one that kind of takes the road less traveled and just feels overall very different. For this movie, I don't know. I felt like it was a very uplifting movie that had a very several deep messages to it. And I love that they tackled existentialism from like 2 or 3 different stances and viewpoints. And they kind of compare like, well, that view is dumb because this view contradicts that. And well, that's dumb because, and they kind of just look at like equally shows you the 3 different, or I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 different versions of reality and like why we exist and the point of life and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I liked how they engaged with the idea of like maybe nothing matters at all. And it's just like, thank you. Can we just talk about that, or am I not allowed to say that out loud and have this experience? And of course, I like this was college for me, but everyone goes through this in their teenage years where it's just like I need to explore these ideas, and parents like kind of just don't want to hear that because it's too dangerous to confront. Like, what if my kid thinks that? It's like these are real questions about the human condition we need to talk about.
That's why I think made that movie special, because it did do something to talk about things that we all feel on a human level, and put it in a way that we could watch a movie about it. And it's in your face. It's not trying to hide that there's a hidden message. Like, no, it's pretty much telling you like, this is how we're going to try
Right
it.
on the nose.
And then it just tackles it with just satire and comedy.
Right. That was a nice layer that wasn't required. Like I enjoy. It's another dichotomy thing. Like visually, it looks very beautiful and bright. Like if you notice, there's one scene in that movie. Not one scene is shot at night, and not only is it all during the day, but it's in a very well lit room with lots of sunlight. That whole movie, it just has a very bright. There's a lot of pastels, a lot of nature. You know, so visually, you when I think of it, I think of like a very bright looking movie, but it tackles quite dark topics, and the things that it's talking about are real, like human, anguishes that we face every day, and. And so it's
the real horrific stuff.
The real horrific stuff. Yeah, it's like the movie. The soundtrack is all bubbly in 1950s.
Yeah, they had such fun going on the journey. Like I remember the lines like, "Come on, the meeting's going down at Huckabee's right now."
Everything
and everyone's
was
like, "Doot, going over there." It's like, well, I just love how they're pursuing meaning.
Right. There was an energy to that movie. I forgot. Like things were always over the top and like almost comically. Yeah, like Lily Tomlin randomly dives into a car through the back seat of a window and like
so kooky.
It was a weird,
and this is something that was still being explored. Like I know that generationally, like I think at that point, Wes Anderson was kind of doing stuff like that.
Right.
There weren't that many directors that were tackling comedy and serious, and
where something's framed on the far right side of the screen,
and it was
something.
like when you see it, you see it, and I feel the movies that you mentioned, like Requiem for a Dream, and it's funny that these are the movies that I would also say really hit me hard when I was young. And it's like, no, it's because they were such of their time.
Well, there's a few other great ones that came out from this time, like Garden State was right around this time.
No, dude, I'm sorry.
I
got very excited. No, do you know what's messing with my mind? This whole conversation, I've been like, so interesting. I didn't think of any stuff, but I'm telling you, Brandon's been saying the movies that I was, and then right before he said that, I was like, maybe I'll mention Garden State as like a generational movie. And now he mentions it again. It's like, dude, we were hit by the same ones, man.
Yeah. And
not that one hit me more than anything. It's just funny that we truly
we got the same. We ate from the same.
We ate from the same. Yeah. These movies were from our time, talking about issues that
V for
we saw.
Vendetta. That's a fucking good.
Now you're just naming movies that you know I've talked about. You're kidding me.
Well, now that's all I'm thinking about. But it is a good one because I remember when that came out. I remember that my friends and I, we saw it in theaters. And I think they were a lot more moved initially by it than I was. Either I wasn't paying attention to everything, or I didn't get the full message the first time. I think it was the second viewing of that movie that I truly like understood the weight of it. For some reason, I don't know. I was distracted or something. I just didn't hit me the first time around. I didn't understand why people didn't. Everyone was all over it. It was a strange movie, but albeit I probably just wasn't paying attention in the theater.
No, I was hit hard with V for Vendetta too. That was another movie.
And why?
Everything what it's about, because I felt like that was already happening, that whole movie. Because I remember that was made in the Bush years, and that movie really was just like it was the second Bush, not the one who just died. I think today or yesterday,
a couple days,
a couple days ago. But forget about the Bush. It's about just government. It's just how we live in a world where we no longer have the freedom. That's what I thought. The world.
It was similar to like that concept of 1984, the message of 1984, which
I haven't seen V for Vendetta.
You've never seen V for Vendetta?
We gotta have a little view.
Watch it. It'll move you literally.
Me.
There's one particular scene where I can't tell the lead of that. You've never seen it, but
it's okay. It's okay.
It just made me like emote, and I've told you this one. Because it's one of those. It's just there's funny how like scenes in a movie can just all the movies that I ever feel. It's because they speak to me. I feel like I'm living. This art that I'm seeing, this feeling, this watch. It's because I feel it. I'm already there, and I haven't been able to see this anywhere else. And it's when something gets to like put that mirror. It's a very special thing. So I'll very easily cry at a movie, or feel something, or I'm emotionally involved in them. And there's this one scene where she walks out, almost reborn, and she looks up and she says, "God is in the rain," and then it just has these shots of rain falling on her face, and it just to me that's like the meaning of everything. No, it's not at the end at all. It's not at the end at all. And that's the great thing about this movie is that it starts off probably very campy almost, like making fun of the idea of what you obviously see, which is like another guy in a cape, right, with a mask on. And it turns into like a very like, oh, this is happening. But like I said, is it dated? Like film, is it dated? Like I said, this is one of my favorite. All of these movies that we've talked about, I haven't seen them in years. because they also stay there in the time. You know, like,
Right.
they hit me hard.
Some movies I'll come back to and they still hold. I recently watched Titanic, and that movie today, if that thing were to come out, I think would still be mind blowing. Like
Probably, yeah. In terms of commercial success, yeah.
Blow your
knock it
mind
down.
in terms of commercial
It's
success.
young Leonardo DiCaprio. He's
No,
the
it's
Hollywood,
just like
Hollywood
even
legend.
the CGI is was impressive. I was like, wow, that doesn't look far off from what we're doing today. Like there were some movies in the 90s that actually had very good CGI, and it's like with effects that would be quite impressive even by today's standards. Casper the Friendly Ghost, for instance.
Whoa,
Those
good call.
I watched some clips of that recently on YouTube just to revisit my childhood a little bit. And those ghosts were very well implemented with the actors and real life surroundings around them. And it was hard to tell sort of what were the lines blurred
call.
between
That's a
CGI.
great-
Another one
great movie,
is Fifth Element. The Fifth Element. That was 1998. I want to say 1999. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those two.
It was definitely like toward the end of the 90s.
Like 99.
And oh my God, that I don't even need to. And you guys both know
I love that movie.
The effects in that film are still still hold all the hovercrafts and everything. Like they look like stuff we have today. So it's interesting. I really do feel.
But also with that movie, like whenever I see something practical and I'm like, that alien looks like a little puppet, I don't care. It's part that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's partially my taste, but that's also definitely that movie where it's just like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
having fun with storytelling here.
Right.
We get honed into it. Like when you said the Never-Ending Story, I think was the first movie. It also feels like that was the last time the movies like that were kind of made like that, because Kermit, like remember those Kermit
Jim
movies?
Henson,
Right, all the
Jim
Jim
Henson,
Henson
like
era.
Yoda, and all
Yoda, yeah.
Dark Crystal.
yeah.
And so it has a very
Labyrinth.
for us. I feel like when we see
big time
it,
fave.
it's very emotional in a different way, where we see it and nostalgia is kind of involved in it. Whereas I feel like if we were to see that now, would it look too fake? Like, can younger people still appreciate it? I don't know.
Sometimes it is a little hard.
I kind of think that practical effects are kind of starting to come back a little bit. I've been seeing it more. I think that because a lot of the filmmakers who are making these choices are from our generation now, and I feel like we were raised with a lot of CGI. You know, we were raised with a lot of really bad CGI. So I feel like I'm seeing a lot. Like in the new Star Wars movie, I'm pretty sure that Yoda was like that looked like a practical. It didn't look like a CGI character. And if it was, it looked like they were going for a puppet, because it did look like an animatronic thing. I could be entirely wrong, but I feel like for me, it takes me out of the story less to see a puppet than to see like this like weird CGI thing running around that I know isn't actually there.
Depends.
I think
look
what
at
grounds
Jurassic
an
Park.
audience changes with time.
Unless it's like Jurassic Park, I think that was really one of the first. A lot of these movies that are coming out now with animals are quite impressive.
Animal ones. Why do they get animals so well, but not humans? I've always wondered that.
Because we're used to looking at other humans,
Correct.
and we're naturally just
We're
analyze
very good
body
at-
language
yeah.
and authenticity of like facial expressions. We're just naturally honed in, and that's hard to mimic. But an animal, I think there's like
We're
less.
like, I think that looks. I think that's a goat.
That's kind of
Isn't that a
like
goat?
that's kind of like how a cow jumps.
Right,
I guess.
I guess. Yeah, if cow had to
That's-
jump, I get. Yeah.
I
probably,
think also
sure.
humans also, we use a lot of our personality comes out in our body language, and animals just kind of have the one body language. But with us, it's like you can tell when someone's walking angry versus like walking.
Yeah.
And
People
but
really
I
notice
think
faces.
even with humans, I think it's getting very impressive. I think CGI, there's some really awesome stuff coming out. Now, I don't hate.
I still haven't seen one yet, though.
Well,
seen
Or
one.
maybe
what
if
do you mean?
You probably haven't noticed.
Maybe I haven't
if you-
noticed, because going off of just anytime they try to replicate somebody who's like died or something. Put them back.
That tech's coming. But
that tech is not far.
Yeah.
The Princess Leia one was a little impressive.
That's
That one-
exactly the one. Dude, me and you are on point. Like, you're reading my brain.
The other ones
today.
no, but the other
It's
one's
messing
not
with my
so
head.
much. The other one's not so much. The Princess Leia one was a standout for me, though.
It was a standout. It was probably one of the best ever. But
Yeah.
even that one still looked like she was wax. You know, it doesn't
She
have the
doesn't-
human like alive
Right.
quality.
But I feel like give it another 5 years. I'm sure it'll be a great technology.
What do you feel about that though? Because that movie also is, to my knowledge, one of the first movies that I'd ever seen where someone
where they did that? Brought
And
someone-
you know what? For some reason in my mind, I feel like, did she ever have a conversation with them? Like, would it be okay if we ever did something like that?
No. That was
Or we
shot.
just bought
That
the
was
rights to
shot.
her face.
That was shot.
Oh, yeah,
that's in the contract.
Oh, that's in the contract. Okay.
Yeah.
No. But that was shot before she passed. That
I
was
know,
done.
I know.
But you talk about if they bring them back after they're gone.
Yeah, like
If they wanted to like map out the face and have someone perform it on the face like a video game, motion capture style, but then just overlay.
I
it with
believe
her
she
face.
would have been okay with it. I really think that if she were able to say having a thought on it, I would like to think that she'd be okay with it. But it could potentially be very strange that your face and image.
Same too. I feel like the legacy of that character is, important
it dies with
to everyone.
Yeah, more than more than just her.
Right, and unfortunately, well, no,
It's just a weird thought.
I told Jonathan, this is one thing I told, and I think I've told you this too. I tell this to most people. If we're in the middle of a project and we worked so hard on it, and heaven forbid I were to die, it's like, I hope you somehow edit what we've got to get that out there. I would hate or do what it takes to finish the project or get it out. You know what I mean?
But then you have to make sure that those loopholes, when you're making a dream, a wish, because then what if it's like a documentary?
Oh,
that's a film.
Well,
It's like the film about the movie,
Yeah, finish it.
Finish
it. We'll make a film about the film we never finished.
But that's my biggest
Brandon
nightmare.
died.
My biggest nightmare. Actually, this came to me when we were doing a day at the beach, because at this point we were almost a month into it, and we had put so much work into. I forget sometimes how hard we worked on that video. We put just everything into that thing, and I remembered on that last week. Like every time I was on the freeway thinking, what if a car just killed me right now? Like what if this thing, as the day at the beach is almost done,
we talked about this last time, the idea of dying.
I know we did, but not in this context.
No, I mean, I hear you.
But, anyways, no, that was like a weird thought of mine. It was like I would hope that whatever. So I feel like if I have a mentality of overall the show must go on. I think that if I was in a movie and they had the budget to bring me back as, or to bring me back physically and have another actor, portray the body movements and voice and whatnot, but for the legacy of that character, oh fuck yeah. That's why we do this in the first place, is to tell these stories and to bring these works of fiction to life. Why would I want to take that character to the grave with me?
I promise you now, if you die.
Well, I hope that this works as a will of some sort.
So I think this is legally binding.
Because I can find a loophole where they corrupt your character.
I would certainly hope my successors wouldn't let that happen.
What if Princess Leia is suddenly making a commercial selling cookies?
Well, then, I think we have a smart audience now. They would know that, that's fucked up, and they would know that it's obviously not Carrie Fisher.
My whole thing is it, and I'm never going to be one of those people. I just love having these type of conversations. It's always like, what would the slippery slope look like?
I don't know.
Not saying that there is one, but where would be that weird angle where somehow we get to the point where we no longer get to truly control our own.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a way.
I think we're already past that point.
They can fuck
when
it
it comes to fucking up a likeness after someone's been gone, that we've already hit that. When it comes to what we're doing specifically in this way, I think that humans in general have a natural respect for the dead. I think that it would really take someone fucked up to do something to deface that character's legacy and by extension that actor's.
Right. I mean, that's just bad for them. You're going to piss off a lot of Star Wars fans trivializing her.
So what you're saying is in 30 years.
Right, it's coming later when she doesn't care.
I mean, when the people I care about and the people they care about are all dead, it's like, fuck it, say whatever you want about me.
I was saying because when you're capable of doing it, how long before you do it? That's my own. This is all just
a slippery slope episode.
You're bulletproofing the concept.
I just want to have fun with it. I just want to have fun.
So, I mean, what do you like in a movie when you're looking at? I mean, we talk about.
See, that's what I worry about. See, everything I connect to is because I just happen to connect with it, and especially
so you like the relatability of films.
Here's what I mean. So I have you were saying that when you were younger, you have the velociraptors, how you would think that the velociraptors were coming to you. There have been moments in my life where my actual life, something is happening, very extreme. It's oftentimes it's unspoken. I don't talk a lot. I mean, you guys know a lot of it, and my friends, family, something. But there's a lot of things that one can keep in. Mm-hmm. And I'll watch a movie and it just seems like it's speaking to me at the perfect moment in my life to see a movie like this, to have this emotion, to think about these things in a certain way. And then, so that could be anything. That could be any type of movie. I've thought deeply about things that I didn't think I would think deeply about or feel things, whereas other parts, movies that I thought I would, I didn't. So I don't know if it's like what
you
makes,
don't have one single criteria.
I guess it's impossible for I guess the
no
main
one's holding you to like, oh, hey, you said that was your favorite, but just like, what is it what
Arizona,
between a set of 30, what? Yeah.
There's one movie that I guess that I've often thrown out, and I actually saw it recently, and I was like, I wonder why I loved it so much, because I hadn't seen it so much, but I still love it. Mm-hmm. But for many years, I used to say Arizona Dreams was my favorite movie, and that's a very unheard of, believe it or not. What's his name? Johnny Depp movie. He's the main actor, Johnny Depp. Everybody knows Johnny Depp. Everyone's seen all his movies. For some reason, they haven't seen this one, and it's surreal. It's a surrealist movie, and it's about just a young man growing up, and what love is, and what responsibility is, and what family responsibility, dreams, what your own dreams look like, and what does happiness look like. And it's done in this very Vincent Gallo's in it, the guy Vincent Gallo. I can't. Interesting. Jerry Lee Lewis.
What year was it? In the 90s?
Like 1994 or something like that. But anyways, point is, why did that movie speak? Because I'm sure that when I saw it, I was going through that exact thing. I was probably a young man questioning what reality was, and so it's like, I like a movie or anything, a show or anything. I like any piece of art that makes me feel like I can understand what I'm already living in my daily life a little better. And hopefully optimistically, hopefully in a positive way.
Movies are reflections of our lives, and our lives change. Yeah, so it's like what might what you might have enjoyed 20 years ago, today you might, and vice versa. Maybe, but the things that I've seen when I was a kid, I did not have any. Not that I didn't even get it, I just wasn't interested in it. This is a dumb movie, and then I come back as an adult, like, this is genius.
Totally.
Like, oh my god, I saw Meet the Parents when I was very, very young. And then I saw it again when I was an adult. And as a child, I thought it was going to be a comedy like Rat Race, or like, oh my God, there's going to be food flying through the air. And this family, we got to stay with them for the weekend. What the worst.
Meet the Parents was a pioneer.
Meet the Parents. But then, like, when I saw it, I'm like, they're just talking the whole movie about stuff I don't relate to. And this is, like, I was too young to understand the awkward.
That's a perfect
example. Because that movie hinges on awkward moments.
It hinges on reaction instead of vocal jokes.
Exactly.
It's all about how he's seeing something unheard of that only us and the viewer get. Right. We're the only one in on the joke.
And even up like when I met the families of a girlfriend that I had in college, it was still less serious than like that kind of moment where it's like, I want to propose to this person. I really need to get along. Like, I didn't get it.
Right.
I shouldn't relate to it really.
Exactly.
So I was like, I don't care.
Right. Maybe as we get older, hopefully we don't lose at least appreciation for things. Like, there's certain things I watch now, I'm like, oh, if I was 10, I would have loved this show. Like, I could still appreciate, like, that I would have loved this at that age, But yes, our interests change, and movies are supposed to be escape from our reality. It's almost a garnish to our reality. And when our realities change, so do the taste in our movies. But you guys, if there's one thing I'd never get tired of, it's coming here every week and doing this podcast with you guys. I would rather be here than at the movie I could have been to at 11 a.m. and they were still selling the matinee tickets at that time. Still, they were still selling them. So I would much rather be here.
Those are good days
with you guys at Jonathan's house. Okay. No, guys, thank you so much, Jonathan, Gabriel. A pleasure as always. And guys, if you're listening to this, don't forget to go to the movies. I feel like people don't do that enough anymore. Just get out and bring some friends, get some popcorn, and you drench that shit in butter and salt, and you go in there and you cut a hole in the bottom of that bucket and you let someone go to town.
For the battery.
For the battery. Do cock. Sorry, it's an inside joke. Maybe we'll talk about it next episode. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd like that.
All right, guys. Have a great day or night, depending on your region.